This is The Culture.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Culture Wave Media Network, where we are bringing you the latest episode of the Cinema Wave Media Podcast. If you like this conversation and you want to hear more, please be sure to like, comment, and hit that subscribe button. We have other shows on the network as well, such as Jersey's Finest and Chicks, Flicks, and Drinks, so be sure to check those out. You can find us additionally on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at Cinema Wave Media, and if you didn't know already, we also have our own blog where we post the latest and greatest news in film and TV that you can find in our description, so be sure to check that out as well. I am your host for this episode, Darian Scalamoni. I am joined as always by Liz Seiko.
Hello.
And also Zach Miller.
What's up?
We're talking about midway through the year, top 3 favorite movies and shows. I'm bopping to it. I'm excited about it.
We're a little bit more than halfway, but we figure why not start talking about what our favorites have been this year.
Yeah, there's still a lot to come. A lot of the awards fair, like movies I know we're all excited about, coming up soon as well. We have Barbie and Oppenheimer, which are the talk of the town right now, plus other things coming like Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, other things like that. But we figured we would start with movies and TV for 2023. So basically the way that this is going to go is we're going to say our 3 favorite TV shows and movies. If one of us has one on our list a little bit higher, one of the co-hosts will say punt, and we'll get to it when we eventually get to it on their list. Okay? So, Liz, do you want to start?
I will.
Okay.
We're doing TV, right?
Yeah,
TV.
well, let's start with TV.
Okay, so my third favorite pick out of all the TV shows that have either premiered or new seasons have come out so far in 2023 is Beef, which is on Netflix. Do either of you have that on your list?
I don't have it on my list.
Ooh.
It barely missed my list. It was number 4. Zach, do you have it?
Punt. I didn't finish it.
Oh, so...
Wait,
Oh,
is the
wait,
punt?
no.
Is the
No,
punt if we've
punt,
seen it?
Punt as if it's higher on your list than it is on her list.
Oh no, then I won't punt that.
Okay, so
good,
let's talk
good,
about
good,
it.
good.
Let's
So
talk
let's
about
talk
it.
about
So
Beef.
how far along are you?
I am 2 episodes in.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you still got a lot
Well,
to
we
go.
won't do spoilers then. We'll just talk more about like the vibe of it. I love it.
I do too. I think when we last talked about it, you weren't finished with it, right?
Yeah,
you just
and
finished
I've
it
just
recently.
finished it.
Okay, so and when we had last talked, I think you were only like 2 episodes.
Yeah, I
in.
literally had like just started it and was kind of like, I don't really know like where this is going. Also, fun fact, when I kept hearing about Beef, I don't know why, but I kept thinking it was like
Another bear.
yeah,
Like
like
another
a
food
restaurant thing, and I was like, Beef. I was like, what are we doing here? But I didn't realize it's not like beef the produce. It's beef like you have beef with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is just a really great name for a show. It's a wild show though. Just for anybody that hasn't seen it, this isn't a major spoiler. It happens literally in the first 5 minutes of the show.
It's literally the inciting incident. Yeah.
It's pretty much 2 people that have like road rage with each other, and this road rage just keeps growing and growing and growing into like a personal vendetta where they end up pushing themselves into each other's lives to ruin each other's lives. It's super interesting. It talks a little bit, it comments on like class also, like upper class versus middle and lower class, in a really nice way where it's not super in your face. I mean, you've seen it. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's like, if I could define the show, I'd say it's like the ultimate crescendo. Like the show starts in a place where you're like, oh, I definitely understand that these 2 people don't like each other, but it gets to different heights and different ins and outs of their relationships where both of their lives are completely destroyed because of one another and because of themselves. So I mean, I loved it. Again, it just barely missed my list. One of the best limited series I think Netflix has done.
I agree.
Ever.
Kind of a twist for, honestly, it gives me Hulu vibes, but
I think Netflix needs more programming like this again to sort of get into the thick of like the drama race and things like that. I mean, they had Dahmer last year too, which we talked about a little bit in
Which
our
is done
Emmys
well.
episode. Steven Yeun, I just love him.
Yeah.
And Ali Wong for this being like her first major role. I think she did a really great job. But in terms of the show, yeah, like classism, I thought the interesting thing about like what you're talking, it is an American show, but so many of the themes are based in like so many of the stars of the show are Korean. And so many of these Korean things that we're seeing, especially most recently with things like Squid Game and Parasite, which won Best Picture a few years ago, it's a very interesting theme that they keep, that I guess is important to their culture as well. And it's definitely showcased the best in a cinematic way. But again, we're not going to go into spoilers too deep, but like Zach, you've seen a couple episodes so far. Where are you at in terms of the show?
So I got to the part where he literally scammed her and like left her house, and there was that one argument that he was like laughing and running away.
Oh,
It's
so
like,
he
oh.
pissed on her floor already.
Yes, yes.
I think that's episode 2.
That is episode 2.
So
yeah.
it's really not a huge spoiler for
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that happens, which is
I
good.
assume there's a lot more.
Yes, it gets
a lot more.
it definitely gets pretty crazy. So all right, so we did your number
So that's
3.
my number 3 pick.
Then I guess I'll do my number
What's your
3
number
next.
3?
My number 3 is The Last of Us. Is it?
It is not on my list.
It's not on Liz's
It's
list.
not on my list.
Oh wow! I'm
right,
kind of
so
surprised. Okay, so let's talk about Last of Us because all 3 of us have watched it too. Last of Us, I think, is the first like really successful video game adaptation from like console gaming all the way to something that's more cinematic. I think that television lends itself much better to a video game adaptation because there's a lot of room to kind of flesh out the nuances and the different characters and some of the episodes within the show, without getting too heavy into spoilers if you haven't watched it, but I think it's like the most watched show of the year so far. I still think it is.
Really?
I think so. Because Wednesday I think was last year.
Oh yeah, well,
But I think Last of Us is like the most viewed. But in terms of like these anthological sort of stories that they have within different episodes, like Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett's episode is like soul crushing and like completely broke me as a human being, and I thought it was one of the greatest episodes of TV I've seen.
I think
in
they
a very
both
long
got
time.
Emmy noms. Actually,
They did, yeah, for guest actor, I guess,
They
right?
did, yeah.
And the young kid who is in one of the later episodes, Henry, yes, he got a guest actor. He's the youngest ever to get nominated, which is so awesome. Like, good
That's
for him.
great.
But I think the performances are really great. And I think again they're building out this really big world. Like they're fleshing out. Like in video gaming, it's really hard to kind of portray that, and I'll let Zach talk about it because I know it's kind of his niche. But like the production design of the show is also just so integral to the story and the show that I don't know. I really really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see what happens with season 2.
Yeah, the quality of the show was just top tier because of it's post-apocalyptic, so there's been a lot of post-apocalyptic shows that have been out there. So it was really going to be interesting to see how this would set itself apart from those, as well as staying true to the game. And I know there is a lot of fans of the game and they had their expectations going into it, but they added the correct amount of flavor in new storylines and new character developments along with the original characters. And the whole episode with Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett, I don't think all of that was in the game. I'm assuming, and there's several moments that was a soul crushing episode. So, and it was also the creators of Chernobyl who took this on. So
Yeah,
they right away that they're gonna give it the most care and treatment that they did. I think that the only con I had with it was the way that it tied up a little fast at the end. Like after the bloater episode, there's a lot of time jumps, and then there's like 2 or 3 episodes where
it wraps up pretty quick.
Yeah, it wraps up quick, and I respect that because it was like one game, one season. So they're gonna do part 2 into the second season, but yeah, I guess if a lot of that storyline was spread out over 2 seasons, it would have maybe had better pacing, but I still thought it was a good, well-made show overall. Liz, I know, what do you think about Last of Us?
I
You didn't
think
love
I
it?
just had too high up expectations for it, honestly, and
You think it was the chatter? It was a big show on social media, and just it was everywhere.
yeah, okay, so like I think it was the chatter because it was a lot of talks about like, oh, very similar to Walking Dead, but like better. And so like I kind of went in with an idea that it was gonna be more maybe more like gory or like creepy kind of, while it was just a lot more storytelling, and I don't know anything about the game. I've never played the game or anything, so I didn't know anything that was gonna happen. Also, I think my issue with it was a lot of the dialogue felt video gamey in a way.
Interesting.
It felt kind of just like, oh, well, we found this letter because in the video game they found a letter, which then was a point to bring them to the next area in the video game.
It was like checkpoints.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah.
Which for me, I mean, I get it because the source material is a video game, so it's like they want to probably keep to the source material.
That's like their best way of being able to adapt it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I just feel like if you're going to change mediums and you're going to go from video game, like interactive medium to like a visual storytelling medium, add more beef into like the actual verbiage that they're using, and don't just make it kind of like, and now we're walking here because the story was supposed to go here. Because then it kind of felt just like a little dull, where I was like, what's the point of this right now?
I think that's why the standalone episode feels so important, because so much of it is not
And
in
I
the
feel like
game.
it brings you back in, because honestly, there were some episodes where I was just like, oh my God, like where are we going right now with this? And then the like breakaway episodes where you could actually see relationships being built, were the ones that were the standout episodes in my opinion. And the ending kind of got like very blurry to me. Like I kind of was just watching it, but was like, what? Why did that happen? Why are we doing this? Although the huge like the shooting scene, and was it the last episode where he just like takes down everybody? Right? Am I wrong about that?
No, I think
right?
you're right. Yeah,
In the
yeah.
hospital.
That was impressive.
Oh, yes,
I
yes,
did like
yes.
that part.
I like the episode in the town too, where the cabin
The
burns
when
religious
down.
they're
people?
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. But
Oh, I totally forgot about that part.
so you
Honestly.
just weren't into it as much.
No,
as everybody
and like I hope I'm more into season 2. I just feel like it was also a lot of like, you know what I felt? Okay, so when I'm gonna give a little bit of a spoiler for this part. I think it's in episode 2 when the woman that he's like traveling with like dies.
Oh yes, it's Anna Torv's character.
Yeah,
I
when
can't
she
think of her name
when
right
like the what are their names? What is the
bloaters.
creature?
Tess is the character name.
Tess, when they
Bloaters.
when they're
yeah.
like
Or
coming
the,
at her.
Not bloaters. What are the names of the
Just infected.
infected? That's it. The infected.
when
yes.
when it's like coming at her and like is right in her face, and then it like she dies, and then they end that episode. I was like, ooh, this is the taking off point for this series. Like they are now gonna run with this, and it's just gonna be like chaos, because I kept hearing like it's very similar to The Walking Dead. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be like fight or flight. But then all of a sudden it got like pumped brakes, and I was
because
like,
it would focus more on the characters.
yeah.
Interesting.
So I don't know. Didn't make my list.
Okay, that's fair. Zach, your number 3 TV show so far.
My number 3 is Love and Death with Elizabeth Olsen and Jesse Plemons. It starts off a little slow. I think it's a slow burn to me. Tom Pelfrey's also in it. He
Shout out Howell
plays-
High School.
Yeah, shout out Howell and Jersey. Tom, you're the GOAT. But yeah, so I love that. It's a period piece. It's about Candy Montgomery, who murdered in the show, Elizabeth Olsen plays Candy Montgomery, and then she murders Jesse Plemons' wife. And then but in the beginning it follows her affair with Jesse Plemons. So there's a lot of the motivation, like did she kill him over the affair or just out of rage? But they both hand in some great performances. Tom Pelfrey, he's in majority towards the tail end of the show because he's the lawyer. He's in most of the court stuff. Then he's also involved in her church. But all of the performances are great. It's a great true crime story if anyone's interested. And it's another HBO show. So it's a good limited series if anyone's trying to take a watch.
I did not watch it, but Hulu put out a show based on the same thing like a year prior. Did you watch that?
What was the name
I
of
didn't.
it?
No, that was
That was called Candy.
who was the
Jessica Biel played
Yes.
Elizabeth
Oh.
Olsen's part, and then I believe Melanie Linsky from
Mhm.
Last of Us and
Mhm.
Yellow Jackets.
I looked this
played
up afterwards.
Betty
yeah.
Gore.
Mhm.
Yeah. I did hear Love and Death was better. And I mean, I think that I don't think those two ladies are very talented. I just think that Ensemble and Love and Death is stronger. I'm interested in watching it. I haven't seen it, but I hear good things.
I have not seen it
Also from
either,
Zach.
so I cannot contribute. But
It's
we'll
okay.
take Zach's word for
Yes,
it.
everybody go and watch Love and Death on Max. All right, so Liz, we go back to you for your number 2 TV
Number
show.
2, which it's definitely on one. I don't know if both your lists, but one of yours, The Bear.
Punt.
Is it on
We're
yours?
punting for what again?
So now, oh my god. So explaining it to
Our
the
scoring.
yeah.
title? Okay.
So since Liz has the Bear 2, that means that one of us, me, has it higher. So we'll move on.
Which means we're not going to talk
until
about it now. We'll talk about it
when we get to
its
my
highest
number 1.
ranking.
So spoiler alert for you guys
Yeah, I'm
watching.
punting that one.
Oh,
Okay, cool. All right, so awesome.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
So then we go to my
second pick.
number 2, which I think is your number 1, which is Succession season 4.
we're punting.
Okay, so then we punt, and then Zach, your number 2 TV show of the year.
Succession.
Punting.
Okay, so we're punting. So
So should we talk about Succession?
let's
or
talk
The
about
Bear?
Succession because
Which-
this is Liz's
which-
number 1.
Shout out. We do have solo episodes on both of these shows, which you should go check out after you finish watching this episode, if you have not already.
Yes. I didn't get to talk about the Bear though, so I'm very excited to do that.
Oh,
I
you
wasn't here for that
didn't?
episode.
Okay, well, you started off because Zach and
No,
I
but
talked
let's
talk about-
very in-depth
Let's talk about
it.
Succession first.
Okay.
So Succession was our very first episode of the Culture Wave Media Network.
It was.
And
Wow.
we had an awesome conversation about it. There was so much to talk about. The most accredited in terms of Emmy nominations of any
Mhm.
show was for the last season of Succession. We don't have to go into too much detail, I feel like, because we talked for so
We talked
long
so
about
long
this.
about it.
But it's one of those shows that is just like one of the greatest shows that HBO's ever released, and just got better and better as the seasons went along, and the characters were so well written, and they're so well acted, and there's so much in this season that just defines moments to me.
Mhm.
Like I'm gonna look back at this show and I'm gonna be able to define so many moments from the whole series just in this season alone. So
I
I mean,
agree.
I love it. Liz, it's your number 1, so go off, girl.
I just think as a final season, there's so many big shows that have trouble wrapping their final season up and making their audience happy and being able to put like a bow on every little storyline. And they, to me, did it. I think that they touched on every possible character that they could have. They gave us an ending that we weren't expecting, but also it led up to it perfectly so that it wasn't a complete shock, kind of like I feel like people said like Game of Thrones was. But I love it. I think it's just a perfect show, honestly. It's one of my favorites. And I think I said this in the last episode when we reviewed it. I'm probably going to rewatch it next year. So
yeah,
I'll let you know if it's rewatchable.
it's just so good.
I was just gonna add that. I mean, we do have the full conversation, but it did feel like modern Shakespeare coming out, like
Ooh, yeah.
in so many ways. There's tragedy, there's loss. The acting is top tier. I think that's another thing that feels very Shakespearean to me is
Mhm.
they always try and find the best people for those positions, and everyone was so perfectly cast in that show. It's unbelievable, and every once in a while, a show does come along like Succession, where it's just firing on all
Yeah.
cylinders, and that show delivered and wrapped up exactly how it should have. So, yeah, very happy about that show.
We
and
love
where it
Succession
left.
here.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
Where Succession stands. The thing about both that show and the show we'll get to in a minute, I love how both of those shows are establishing these actors that were always good actors but
Mhm.
never got like the spotlight, right?
Yeah.
And now we're going to be able to see them a lot more because of the way that these shows have put them on a pedestal. Like Succession in general, the casting is so great. I mean, like Nicholas Braun is an actor that like I remember watching Sky High as a kid.
Sky High.
And
Yes,
he
shout out.
plays like this side like hero character, but there was always something, he was so quirky and it just made sense. And they were able to write him so well as Cousin Greg, and now it's like he's gonna get other opportunities because of it. Jeremy Strong, like I remember seeing him in things like The Judge and like The Big Short,
Yeah.
but he
Well,
never.
Jeremy Strong has been around for a little while, I will say.
But he wasn't
He wasn't like a family name. Like I
No.
feel like people were always like, "Oh, it's that actor," but now people actually
He was a
know
character
his
actor.
name.
He was just
Yeah.
a guy that, I mean, he's a great actor.
He's big in
and
theater.
that's not a shot. Like we love character actors. But I'm saying like he now has he has name recognition because
Yeah.
of the weight of Succession, right? Matthew McFadden. I know you're a big Pride and Prejudice fan, right?
Mhm.
I had never seen it. Like, so this is
Have you seen it now?
No, I still haven't seen it.
Ah!
This is my exposure to him though as an actor,
Yeah.
and his range.
Okay,
is
if
remarkable.
anybody has seen Succession but they haven't seen Pride and Prejudice, you need to go watch it because what you see of like him in Succession, it's a complete turn in Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah.
Like total different range.
And the cool thing with Succession is I feel like if you read the synopsis to somebody, you'd be like, I'm so not interested in this.
I know.
And it's just so unbelievably well written, echoing what Zach said, like modern Shakespeare is what it definitely feels that way. So
then your number one picks,
is
the Bear.
Yes. I didn't get to talk about this because I was in.
So why don't you go
I
off?
was on
Why don't you
vacation.
go
Your
off a little bit?
This show is so good for so long in so many different ways that I can't wrap my brain around it sometimes. The first season of the show is something that it like, I don't want to say it's like the little engine that could, but it's like this show where you're like, oh, like it's a foodie show, right? Like it's a scripted restaurant show and they take care of a sandwich shop and like, you know, it's got the guy from Shameless. That was what everybody said.
Mhm.
It's got the guy from Shameless, right? Jeremy Allen White, again, his just barometer goes up because of this show. But people like Ayo Edebiri and Eben Moss Backrack, I hope I'm saying that right. I said that last episode too. Holy shit, do I love this guy. And the character of Richie is so great. And you see it so much in season 2, the way that they break down all of these characters. And again, similar to how, at least in The Last of Us, like you have those many little anthological things, but you have that in this show in terms of the way it's written, but you still have it be integral to the overall story in such a way that it's interweaving their decisions towards where we end up in the finale, right? So like Richie's episode, which I know you guys have talked about at length, is
love it.
one
I
of the
love
best
it.
episodes of TV of the year. I really, I think it got lost personally in the conversation because of how good Richie's episode is. The episode in Denmark, I think, is really, really great.
Yes. Yeah, we didn't touch on that too much in our episode, honestly, because we did focus a lot on...
And the Christmas episode,
Richie.
which is like the obvious one.
yeah.
But like the Denmark, like there's so much, and even his relationship with Molly Gordon this season, I thought was really great. So I don't know, I fucking love this show. I just do. Like there's so much about it. I feel like I could write a paper on it. Like if I was in high school, like I would be writing.
This is
I would,
thesis material.
yeah, like this is so much where I would just want to talk about it forever. But I don't know. It's I'm happy that it's an FX show. Like I really love FX as a network. And I think that we need more shows like this that kind of put us as the fly on the wall. And there's something that is very, I said it for the first season, like I love the Safdie brothers movies.
Mhm.
And it has this intenseness that it's very palpable and you see it on screen and you see it through editing and you see it through camera work that you feel with both of the seasons of The Bear. But there's such a warmth to this season at the same time. It's such a hard balancing act that they're just able to like hit out of the park every single week. Like there was not an episode of the show that I through both seasons, but this season especially, that I did not like. I think it's so incredibly well written. I want all of the actors to do everything they want for the rest of their lives. And Christopher Storer too, like for creating the show. And I don't know if you guys had seen this or read about this, but his wife has worked in.
She's a culinary expert.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and
so
she's worked in the
actually
culinary world.
cooking the food that they're like showing.
Yeah,
It's her and then Matthew Madison, I think. How do you know? Maddie Madsen.
Maddie Madison. Yeah,
Madison, right?
He plays Neil. Yes,
And he's an actual
I watch
chef.
his YouTube videos
Do
all
you?
the time.
He's an
Shout out
actual-
Maddie Madison.
Shout out, please.
Maddie Matheson, I think.
Maddie Matheson.
I think it's Maddie.
I think it is
Matheson.
too. Actually,
But he's great, and he's another one. So he's never acted like
Well, no, he's a chef.
he's a chef.
And so he's
So,
actually he's one of the culinary experts on the show who's actually cooking the meals that they're presenting. And he's also checking everything to make sure like what they're doing is accurate to a kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Such a
I
great
love the
show.
show.
We love it.
Zach, sorry, I just like took so much of it, but
No, dude, that was your bear conversation. So I
Yeah.
wanted you to
thank you.
have
I'm so excited about it.
I will just echo kind of what you were saying though too is yeah, it's another example like Succession. Everybody has great performances, several episodes that could be up for Emmys in their own right, just alone. And yeah, I just feel like there are so many layers that go into that show too, and the care and meticulous planning that they did for it really stood out to me. And any show that has such a confident, creative vision like that bleeds through to the audience is what really comes in as a gut punch swing to be like, wow, that really took my breath away. And I think The Bear does that for a lot of people. So I mean, season 3, I can't even imagine where they're gonna go, but it's gonna be great.
I
So-
can't wait though.
It's one of those shows too that I wanted so much more right away. Like,
Well, I
Yeah.
know it's so bingeable. Honestly, it's like I think I watched it in like a day.
yeah,
Maybe. Also, there's such short episodes too, so you are all of a sudden you're 5 in and you're like, well, I might as well finish the season. Like, what am I doing?
And to me, like, I don't know about you guys and your viewing experiences for anything, but I feel like more recently, I'm like, I really enjoy the week to week. Like, I like how HBO has that aspect to it.
Yeah.
With the other 2 shows that were on my list were HBO shows, but it works so well with The Bear that it's like there's only a couple shows I feel that way with. Stranger Things is another one. Like, personally, I just
Mhm.
like. I mean, I've watched the last 3 installments of Stranger Things. I watched all in one day. So, like,
Really?
yes, yeah, I know. And that's an hour-long show. And some of the
And
episodes
that's
were
a
like,
lot of content.
yeah, it is a lot of content. But anyway, so yeah, that's those are our top 3. Most of us had the same ones. A lot of
Did
the
you
shows
talk
that we've
about the
talked
bear
about.
list? Did you want to add anything to the bear?
No, I mean I agree with you guys completely on everything, and I feel like I gave my opinion a lot in our other episode. I love it. Everyone should watch it. It's
Yeah,
a
everyone should
quick
watch
show
it.
too, so you don't have to like devote months to it, but go watch it.
Yeah, there's no excuses. Go watch The Bear. Liz, movies.
Movies.
We're jumping into
We're
movies.
here, everyone.
So I have seen a bunch of movies this year. I've actually, surprisingly, I've seen more recent movies than shows, I feel like.
Mhm.
So I'm excited to jump into this conversation, but let's start with your number 3 of 2023 so far.
Okay, my third pick, which I don't think either of you have seen, is A Good Person.
I've not seen it.
I have not seen that.
Okay, well then I'll talk about it a little
Let's
bit.
do it.
So it's the newest Zach Braff movie, who I am a big fan of Zach Braff's. I think he just does a really nice homage to his hometown of New Jersey.
Love it.
Love it. And this film, it's honestly, it has Florence Pugh in it, Morgan Freeman, and it just focuses on what I don't want to really talk too much about the plot just because I think there is like a slight spoiler. I don't remember if it's in the trailer, so I don't really want to talk about it, but it focuses on grief, and it's pretty much the aftermath of a couple that breaks up after a very tragic thing happens to them, and how you kind of move on from when something tragic that was maybe your fault happens, and how do you come to terms with apologizing to people, but maybe some people not accepting your apology too. And then also it comments on addiction in a really nice way, where it can happen to just anybody. It doesn't necessarily happen to people that you think. It can happen to anybody who's going through a tragic time in their life that just uses pills or even alcohol to numb themselves from pain, how that can become a reliant in their lives. It's very heavy, but then also Zach Braff, I think is a great writer, where he doesn't just lean on the emotion too much. He also throws in real life comedy. So then it's like 1 second you're hysterically crying from the like emotional pain that you're going through, but then you're laughing at yourself because you're like, why? Like I have like, what am I doing with my life? And then you can start laughing about that because you have to find laughter in pain also sometimes. It's a great cast, super funny, and I think it's just a really overall good film.
I do want to see it.
You should.
I love Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
I think she's great in literally everything she does.
Her performance is it's probably maybe one of my favorites of hers, because I think she just gives it all to the camera and doesn't hold back. She cuts her hair on screen. It's just really great. She's a mess in like the best way.
Yeah. Zach, any thoughts?
Oh, I was gonna say this has been on my list for a while too. So, especially the fact that it's a Jersey film and a great cast, Zach
Yeah.
Braff. I'll definitely always get around to seeing his work. His work. And yeah. So that's all I gotta say. Obviously, my voice doesn't want me to say anything else.
I think we should have a Cinema Wave movie night and watch it together.
I'll rewatch it. I loved
I
it.
think that'd be fun.
Everybody should go see it.
I do really want to say it.
Okay, so
Um,
moving on. What's your third?
My number
film.
3 is surprisingly a 4th installment in a film franchise, and it is John Wick Chapter 4. Is that on either of your lists?
Not on my list. I
No.
did not get around to it.
I
yet.
haven't seen it.
Okay. So I love when fight choreography is done really well. I just
I
really
think we've talked
appreciate
about
it.
this in a past episode, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I grew up, I come from like a martial arts family,
Mhm.
so I really respect, like, I remember at a young age like watching like Enter the Dragon with like Bruce Lee, and it was like super influential on my life. I know you think it's funny, but I'm being dead serious.
I love it though. I think
So-
it's so.
With
I
John
just love
Wick,
it.
with John Wick Chapter 4, and it was hyped up to be this like conclusion of his character, which I'm not going to go into whether it is or it isn't. You should watch the movie and see for yourself. Keanu Reeves was able to make this story. Do you know anything about the John Wick movies?
I've actually never seen a single one.
Okay, but do you know the
So-
storyline, like how this all starts?
No.
So basically, you start to see Keanu Reeves play this character of John Wick based on a rampage that he has because these guys killed his dog.
Okay.
And then it turns into this like epic spanning of just this society that he was a part of, being an assassin, and this hotel that they stayed in, and they employed these people to do all these things. Like it sounds like it's something that would be like not up your alley because it's like
It's-
cinematic university, but it's done in a way that is with so much respect, and it's original. It's not something that is coming
Okay.
from a previously adapted comic book. It's not like anything like that. So I didn't see the first 3 John Wick movies in theaters. I actually binged them all a couple years ago. And then with this one, I was just excited because I'm like, oh, it's another John Wick movie. But there was something about, especially the choreography in this one and the gunplay and how they're able to use the story of John Wick's character and implement. And Bill Skarsgård plays the villain.
Okay.
I think he's terrific. For you guys, if you don't know Bill Skarsgård, he's famously Pennywise in the It movies. But I don't know. It's so, and in terms of like the below the line stuff, like the lighting is incredible. The camera work, because camera work is so important to an action film, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know. I love this movie. I think it's a big year for action movies. Like I love Mission Impossible as well. It didn't make my list, but John Wick Chapter 4 is my number 3.
Okay.
Zach.
Zach.
My number 3 is Mission Impossible, actually.
All right.
And kind of similar to John Wick, it is a franchise. This is the 7th movie. So I will say I've seen a lot of franchises. I've tried to sit through Fast and Furious. They're obviously tanking now. Like I can
What are they on? Number
Honestly,
10?
Number 10.
Oh
Jeez.
yeah,
Fast X.
Oh,
just
God.
pumping it. So, that's one of the franchises that is tanking. But Mission Impossible has respectfully kept the bar very high every time. Tom Cruise continuously outdoes himself somehow with his stunts. I mean, the guy literally drove a motorcycle off of a ramp, off of a
I
cliff,
did see that.
and did a base jump, and then
Dude is out of his
Like-
mind.
and he's 60 years old,
Yeah,
and he's
that's
doing
crazy.
this stuff. And for him to have that ability, and I like, as a person, he is a little bit odd, but I think that his respect and love for making movies and always setting the bar very high is what comes through in these films a lot
Mhm.
too, because for the most part, this was like one of the better action movies that anyone could probably watch. There was a couple scenes that are a little far-fetched towards the end with like the train falling off this bridge, and you're like, okay, like that wouldn't happen. But everything else, you're like, they try and make it as original as possible, and there's a lot of new things that they touch on with technology. One of the central conflicts is the fact this AI is a big threat to, like, if it became self-aware or if it lost control, it could start overtaking things and bending the truth and stuff like that. So I thought that was interesting, and it was very present in our day and age now. But yeah, and then the whole team behind it. Simon Pegg has been in most of them now. Ving Rhames has been in almost all of them. And for all of the team to be going as strong as they do, to get behind Tom Cruise for something like that, it always impresses me. And also Haley Atwell was awesome.
Oh,
like, she stole a lot of that movie. Awesome. And if you guys have seen the Captain America or anything with her in it, I totally recommend it for that reason.
I think she's super underutilized. Like, not in the movie. I think she's great in the movie, but she hasn't been in a lot since Captain America. I think she's a really great actress. The ensemble for Mission Impossible for me, especially with the female leads, I think is so strong. Like, I think she's great. I love Rebecca Ferguson. Like, she's so good in these movies. Vanessa Kirby, who, like, I think I discovered her from The Crown. She's so good in The Crown. And she's awesome in this movie as well. I really like this movie. This movie was like right outside my top 5, so it's close to.
There's
I
also
have not seen it.
Esai Morales.
Yeah,
he's been in a couple of other great films, and he's awesome as a villain in this. Very commanding presence and super versatile. But is that my last? Yeah,
that was your number 3, right?
That was my
That was
3.
That was 3. That was 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us your 2?
Did you guys do yours?
No, but you
No.
the camera's on you. Why don't we start with you?
Are you not listening?
No, I thought you guys. Do you guys want to do?
All right, we'll go back to Liz.
wants
He
a
needs a
break from
minute.
the
He needs a
camera.
minute.
He
All
needs
just
a
right.
break from the
producer.
camera.
All right. Liz, your number 2.
My number 2, which I know you guys haven't seen it yet. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
No, but I want to see it very badly. I've heard really good
It's on my
things.
list.
I'm just
and
gonna,
one of the Safdies is one of the leads.
I was gonna say I'm gonna read off just some of. I mean, it's Rachel McAdams, Kathy Bates, Benny Safdie, but you know who really carries this whole film is the young children actors, who I just feel like sometimes when it's a cast of kids, it can turn into a kids movie a little bit and just kind of geared only toward like seeing it with your family, with like your younger kids. I think this movie can be literally for anybody. It's based off the Judy Blume book, which I've actually never read, but my mom read it when she was growing up, and so I did see this movie with my mom.
Oh, I love that.
I know. I love it. It's all about an 11-year-old girl who moves from New York City to New Jersey. I know.
Very Jersey
Very
centric.
Jersey centric. And it's just about her growing up and like going through puberty and like all the little intricate things and like nuances of growing up. And it's like first kisses, first crushes, like having a friend and like learning if that friend is actually like a good friend to you or if it's just somebody who's like needs you around to have somebody. And another part of the whole story is that it focuses a little bit about her father is Jewish and then her mom is Catholic, and it's her growing up and her parents never put the pressure on her to decide, but now she's taking it on herself to be like, I need to figure out what it means to be Jewish, what it means to be like a Catholic, and try to start to decide for myself. And it's her going through puberty while having all these conversations with like her grandma who's played by Kathy Bates and kills it. She's so funny. It's just a really heartfelt movie and I think everybody should watch it.
I can't wait to see this movie because I feel like it's in a genre that I think is very lost upon cinema right now, which is coming of age.
Yes.
Because I think true coming of age movies are so great and they're done so well if it's just focused on the right things, right?
Yep.
And it seems like the maturity themes and growing up is Abby Ryder Fortson is the lead, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so she's the little girl from the Ant-Man movies.
Mhm.
She is. I've heard her performance is so great in this movie.
It's incredible because honestly, her character would have made or broke this movie if they put somebody who wasn't so clear. Her performance is just she's so lost as a character, but then her acting is so it's just spot on.
awesome. I want to see this movie.
I want to see it now too. It's on my list.
There
So,
you go.
The way you said it,
It's also on my watch list on
Awesome.
IMDb. My number 2, I have a feeling is a punt, but it is Past Lives.
Please punt.
We're gonna punt.
It's a punt.
Oh, it's a punt for both. This is fun how this
I
works
like
out.
it.
All right, so
Okay,
Zach, what is
Zach,
your
it's
number
on to
2?
you.
Spider-Verse. Yeah.
Punt.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right, so
okay.
this is so funny how it
This-
worked
yeah,
out this
right?
way.
I like
All right.
this.
So let's talk about Past Lives then, because there's a whole conversation as well, if you guys didn't know, on our YouTube channel that me and Michael had about Across the Spider-Verse, a spoiler conversation. So make sure you guys at least see the movie before you tune into that. But Past Lives is this.
We haven't talked about
we
it
haven't
yet.
talked about it. We've all been waiting to talk about this movie.
This is my number 1 pick.
It was hard for me
Yeah.
to put it over Across the Spider-Verse. Very tough. Like, it was so close. They're polar opposite movies.
Literally.
So, yeah, like completely different movies. This is a very tender and personal story that is about this romantic 3-person relationship throughout the years. It's an A24 picture.
Mm-hmm.
It is another film that features a lot of South Korean talent.
Greta Lee.
Greta Lee is Nora.
Greta Lee is
T.O.
so good in this movie.
TOU is Jung Hae-sung.
Okay. TOU is also great in it, but Greta Lee's performance is there's so much emotion behind every single thing that she does, and it's not in your face.
Nope.
And it's so like real. It's to the reality of who human beings are. So I mean, that's the one thing I wanted to highlight in the very beginning. Greta Lee's performance, I think, is so just, it's like a portrait of life.
Mhm.
And I don't know how else to explain it other than that, but like maybe you have a better.
Yeah, Liz is like, tap me in.
Yeah,
This
it's like,
is just
she's like, I've been waiting
guys,
for this moment.
This is like my type of movie that I just live for. And it's funny because like when I talk to some like people outside of like Culture Wave about films, they joke that like my favorite movies are things that like nothing happens but everything happens, and this is one of those movies where it's very similar to Lost in Translation, if anyone's seen it, where it's just literally paths that just cross at the wrong time in life, and the aftermath, and it's just great conversations of breaking down what it means to be in somebody's life that you really love and care about, but you can't actually be with them. The acting is superb because they don't push, they don't force themselves to reach these emotional heights and stakes that you would assume a film like this would push, and you never, which then leads to the audience just forever holding on and thinking like, oh my gosh, when is the breakdown gonna happen? When are they just gonna grab onto each other and just finally say like, I love you, I don't love you, I can't be with you, I want to be with you? And they almost like never do. In a way, it just is perfectly done, where it's almost a suspense because it keeps you on the edge of your seat, wanting them to get together, but then being like, no, you can't be together. Like, there's no way that this is actually going to work out.
Mm-hmm.
I also really love that they didn't, I feel like a lot of movies like this can go the route of like, well, they're star-crossed lovers. Like, they have to end up together to like give a good ending so that the audience feels good walking away. And I really appreciate movies and films that don't give the audience necessarily a good feeling in their stomach at the end.
I was
Yeah.
going to say going back to part of what you said, I think the thing that's really important and great about this movie is it showcases these moments and the modesty of what we all experience in our lives, where at different points we can love people for different reasons at different times. And it's something that's not explored enough in art and in terms of like, especially cinema. Like, we don't see it as much like again, it feels like sometimes it's just like we're always getting to that point where like, oh, it's a love triangle, but then there's one person that's always going to come out on top, and it's like neither choice is the wrong choice when her character is trying to decide which direction to go in. And as human beings, we experience such like subtle emotions in ways that we can't express, and this movie does it
Yeah.
times like 100. And it's so, especially for like a directorial debut like Celine Song, like it's perfect
It's
artistry to me.
Well, I also think it's great because she's actually a playwright. And so I think the reason that the story does so well is because she has that background of writing stories already and being able to show the timeline of a relationship. I just also love that okay, so like kind of how you said, whenever there's like a triangle love romance going on, somebody always ends up on top. And she didn't end it that way. She didn't end it with there being a winner. It ended almost with all of them being losers kind of at the end of it, which like that's more of real life. Like nobody ends up being the winner all the time because there's damage that happens. You end up breaking somebody's heart. You break your own heart along the way. I loved everything about this film, and I could go on for hours, but I won't. So Zach, what do you got?
I was just gonna add that like what you were saying is the best part about this movie is the challenging of expectations. Like going into a romance movie, you are expecting that forbidden lover to come in and just break up the marriage that's kind of ailing. It's a little rocky. And then he's obviously like the meant to be star-crossed lover. And you're expecting that big, like at the end, you're on the edge of your seat for something. And you would like, there are very few romantic movies that have actually gotten that reaction out of people that haven't been cheesy, you know? So you're just hoping that this is probably the last time this guy will see this woman, and you want him to do something about like the fact that they haven't ended up together, and the subtlety that they have of literally saying nothing for a shot that holds probably like 2 to 3 minutes. You're just waiting for this tension. You're like, say something, man. Like, say something. This is your moment. This is it. Like, this is it for you. And it doesn't happen. And for a spoiler. But so, yeah, for something as strong in that Past Lives plays to its subtlety. It plays to its nature of saying things without saying it. It visually shows us their relationship throughout the years. There are other sections of the film that, you know, they literally go their separate ways visually too. One guy goes up the stairs, the girl goes down, or he goes down the stairs, or she goes down the stairs. So there's like, there was a visual crossroad too, that they're both going to go their separate ways. They're both going to go live in their separate countries. I also really liked how the husband of Greta Lee was American, and that also played into his polar opposite persona that she was. And it showed more, he's like trying to learn Korean, he's trying to be more involved in her backstory, her raising and growing up, and he's definitely making an effort. He's not necessarily present all the time in their relationship, but you can see how he's not the guy that's meant to be for her. Like the other guy is the perfect fit for her. And then I would also say, like, if somebody isn't really familiar with foreign films, or if they're trying to get into foreign films, this was a great movie that intertwines Korean culture and American culture. So if you're looking for something that has, and it's bilingual too, because it has Korean and American in it, and it was just a love story. And I think that was another thing that was great. And I was actually talking to my friend about this, but it's very similar to Kar-wai Wong's In the Mood for Love, which has been like another series of forbidden love. And that story encapsulates this couple who have like this attraction to each other, but they're not. They obviously are like, no, like we both have our spouses. They live across the hall from each other. and then they find out that their spouses have been cheating on them with
Oh wow.
each other's spouses, and then they are those two are out of the picture, and then
Mhm.
they're like, do we entertain this relationship? But we don't want to become like them, so they kind of become friends, but more than friends, and there is so much tension in a movie like that
Yeah.
too. And I think that was definitely one of the inspirations for this movie, but
Yeah.
still past lives holds its own in that way of subtlety, the charm of it, the charisma of it,
Mhm.
and challenging the expectations.
Well, I also want to add one more thing that they're just so smart with like naming it past lives, because then a theme that they keep talking about is a Korean phrase. I think it's pronounced inyeon, which essentially means like fate or destiny of whenever you meet somebody in your life, that means that you have met them either in your past life or you'll be meeting them in a future life. And so I don't want to spoil it, but that wraps up in the end in such a perfect way, which then leads you to think like they are meant to be together, but just not right now.
Yeah.
I love it. It's a great film.
It's
That's
heavy.
enough for past lives. Otherwise,
Wow.
we'll be here for like
We
3
will.
hours.
We'll be here for way too long. So
Why don't you guys talk about your number one pick?
Zach, let's nerd out.
Because I have.
Well,
my-
that was my number one pick.
Oh,
Past
right.
Lives.
Okay,
It
so then
wasn't-
just.
Well, me and Zach are
Karen,
gonna
go
nerd
for
out.
it.
No, 'cause
But
I
now
want
we're
to talk
gonna
to.
nerd out.
Well, I haven't seen Spider-Verse, so I'm out of here.
No,
Bye.
we got to talk to you about this because I know you're not a comic book fan or a comic book movie fan in particular. However, have you been hearing the rumblings about this movie?
Yeah.
You're not interested.
It's like,
Yeah,
You're not-
I've been hearing that it's like it's the best movie of the year. Some people are saying it might be the best film that they've ever seen.
I think that I wouldn't put it that far.
I've been hearing some like incredible things.
I think it's.
doesn't it have it's very high on like Rotten Tomatoes
Yeah,
right now.
Michael and
right?
I talk about in our review about how, or we at least contemplate and pander, is this the greatest comic book movie of all time?
it's up there.
I think it's up
Yeah.
there. I go back and forth between that and Dark Knight because again, they're two different tones, right? But
Mhm.
there is such an emotional core to this movie, and the animation just in general. Like if you're a fan of animation, you should do yourself a favor and see this movie because there are 37 different animation styles
Mhm.
in this film.
Do I need to see the first Spider-Verse?
You don't need to. I don't
Okay.
think. Michael
Just a
talks
little
about
bit.
that.
Just a little bit of
For-
elements, but
yeah.
being familiar with the characters. a little
Give
bit,
yourself
yeah.
one of those YouTube movies in minutes watches.
Yeah.
And
I feel like if I'm gonna commit to seeing Spider-Verse, I'm gonna watch both.
but I'm worried about the fact that if you watch the first movie and you don't like it, you're gonna be like, all right, well now I gotta go see the second one.
Spider-Verse was
You have
so
Miles
good.
Morales next to you, by the way.
I know.
You do.
You do.
He's right there.
Across the
Look at him.
Spider-Verse is my favorite movie of the year. It's Zach's second favorite movie of the year. This movie is so close to
You think
perfect
it'll
for
win
me.
Best Picture?
I don't think it will.
You think it'll
Best
get a
Picture.
nom?
I
It
think
should win Best Animation.
it should
like,
definitely win
by
Best Animated
far.
Film.
Yeah.
But I do think it should be nominated for Best Picture.
Interesting.
The
okay.
last animated movie that was nominated for Best Picture was Toy Story 3. No?
The
Oh,
last.
dude, I'm gonna have to fact. I don't
We're gonna
know.
fact check.
That's
We're gonna
a-
fact check. But I'm pretty sure that was the last
Great
one.
question.
Pixar's on a cold streak. I haven't seen a lot of their movies recently. But Across the Spider-Verse, again, like go check out the full spoiler conversation with Michael and I. But
It is Toy Story 3,
Okay,
2010.
that's what I thought. So, and especially that the Oscars now has like opened it back up to 10 nominations. Like this movie is so great.
It should be in there.
I think it
like,
should be in
it is visually like striking, and it keeps you so entertained the whole time. The fact that they spent 5 years, 4 or 5 years making this movie just in
Mhm.
animation is insane to me. I mean, and then everything stylistically, it's rare you'll ever see a format this clean cut and perfect and representative of a comic book. And then it was just so good that they had to adjust the letterboxed ranking
yes,
system
because it was the number one film on
it
Letterboxd
it got
ever.
such a high score that Letterboxd had changed their ranking system to amount of watches, or there was some.
It's like yeah.
all the film bros and all the film junkies were like, "There's no way, bro." It's like, yeah, maybe not the best overall like ever, but it makes I mean, it is really good.
I mean, I love the first movie
It's-
so much,
yeah.
and
All right, I guess
I
should
think
watch
this movie
it.
is way better than the first one.
Which I will say, I think it's impressive when a second film outweighs the first one.
But again,
TV series, I think, is different. I think
Yeah.
it gets better sometimes as it goes on, but films, I think usually the first one is the best.
I think there's so much care that was given to it because, again, as Zach said, there were 5 years in between
Yeah.
where they worked so hard on all the different animation stuff. And at least in terms of the last movie we just covered, Past Lives, there's like, again, very, very different movies. I would describe Past Lives as a portrait, right?
Mm.
It's this like beautiful, hand-drawn, hand-worked piece of art that talks about and reflects humanity, right? This movie is like the definition of spectacle, which a lot of which a lot of movies in the comic book vein, and like just unfortunately the way that cinema is in general right now, a lot of movies can be defined under like spectacle or epic or all this
Yeah.
stuff. But this is the most well done spectacle I think I've ever seen.
Okay.
Like, because The Dark Knight to me is, as even though it's a comic book film, it's very like, it's Nolan, you know, like it's done differently. This is a movie that I would put up against any other comic book movie, and I would be like, nah, it's just in a different stratosphere to me.
Okay.
And I'm a big comic book movie fan, so
Yeah, I kind of agree with him, and I will say that there have been a lot of cheaper comic book movies that have come out in the last couple of years, and this does not soil at all. Like everything is fire. Like, it's another thing like Succession. It's firing on all cylinders. It has animation style. It has great music, a great soundtrack.
Quiet down over there, please.
Yeah, yo, you talk.
so sorry, so sorry.
Yeah, it just really encapsulates a lot of stuff that comic book people want to see, but it has really good story elements in it too. And there's, I don't know, the whole conversation is on our YouTube page, but yeah, there's really not much else you could say, but it is up there with all-time greats of comic book movies. And then it just really shrouds itself in a lot of allure of just being a great movie and firing on big ways as a big blockbuster. So
I want to wrap up with one quick question for both of you.
Okay.
We don't have to go too deep into detail, but biggest disappointment of the year so far in terms of movies.
Oh, movies. Zach, why don't you take that one first?
Oh, I gotta go.
I feel like I know
yours.
yours.
I know my TV show one.
I don't know if you
All
know
right,
mine.
maybe not.
But Reality with Sid Sweeney.
I agree. Wow.
Oh, really?
Okay, so cool.
Love her.
I do too.
I love Sid
but
Sweeney. I think it was cool that they did it with a transcript of the script was a transcript of the actual police tapes, which was interesting.
Interesting.
But when I'm like, I think I paused it several times, and I was like, when is this going to get good? When are they gonna find something insane? I felt like it was very like agenda based. Like yes, she was doing the right thing, but they made it out to be like this. Oh, like she was taking the nation by storm. She did the right thing in the end, and now like all this. I'm like, what is happening in this movie that is so like, why would this story deserve a movie in its own right?
It's getting another movie too.
I actually
Yeah.
I like the storyline a lot, and I like how they went about it. I just think that they were like a hair shy of the suspense aspect that they were going for, where they wanted that feeling of like, oh my god, when's the shoe gonna drop? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And instead it was just more like, wait, what's happening? Wait, what? I don't get that, because there's so much in the script, because they actually take it from a police like recording and a report. They have like blacked out wording and like things that they can't actually speak about because it's top secret stuff. And so they actually do that in the show, where they end up bleeping out like what they're saying. Or like, I think she maybe like disappears in the moments that like she's saying things that you're not supposed to hear. Which then for me, I'm like,
yeah, I was like, I want to hear that
wait,
stuff.
I'm
So
like,
why
I'm
did
confused though. So then like, what are we actually talking about here? I know that it's like something like went down, but like what went down. And so that's where it's tough for me to get on board with this movie, because it's like, how are you going to tell us a story but then not actually give us the details of it?
Yeah,
That's exactly how
that
I felt.
that seems
Yeah.
very interesting.
It was
I
like-
haven't seen it, but
You're missing
now I'm
half the
actually more
conflict.
curious to check it out because
Interesting take. I thought it was like a good, like I could see how the screenplay was interesting to read, but on film I was more just I ended up just like halfway through being like, I'm just going to Google what this is about and read the actual like news article.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would agree with Zach on that. What would be yours?
Mine is You People.
Okay.
So it was a Netflix movie, which again, like not all Netflix original movies are the best, but it's a comedy, and you're talking about a movie that's co-written by Jonah Hill, who I think is like one of the funniest people,
Mhm.
and Kenya Barris, who I don't know if you guys watch Blackish, but Blackish is great. And he did Blackish, and he directed this film as well. I mean, Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy in a movie alone
Yeah.
should be like so great. You add Julia Louis-Dreyfus, you add Nia Long, you add David Duchovny, you add all these great ensemble like and funny people and really great actors.
Mhm.
But holy shit, is this movie a dumpster fire? Like, it's not funny at all. Like, I might have laughed twice, and it's like a 2-hour movie. And there's just so many things where they just drop the ball and they try to be so culturally aware, and it's just so in your face in the worst possible way. Like, it's basically like, it's like the definition to me of like a pie in your face is like
Ooh,
what it feels like.
okay.
It's like, oh,
I haven't
like
seen it.
I guess I'll lick my lips because it's sweet, but, you know, like it's like I know that probably came off so weird and random, but my point is like when again, like casual moviegoers, right? If this film was in movie theaters, not on Netflix, or
Mhm.
even for the people that have Netflix, because the majority of the world does now, you're scrolling along and you're like, wow, Eddie Murphy and Jonah Hill like together. Like I never thought I'd see that.
I just heard it wasn't that great, so I skipped over it.
It's really bad.
Okay.
And I was really excited for it because of the fact that all the creative people that were involved.
Yeah.
But yes, not for me.
What did you think that I was gonna say?
I thought we were gonna say indie,
I
think we had this
wasn't-
conversation, and you were like,
Yeah.
it was what I expected.
Yeah, so like my expectations going in were you're not going to touch the first three. Those are like in their own stratosphere, kind of like how you were saying with comic book stuff. My only expectation was to be better than 4, and I thought it was better than 4.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people thought like what I haven't really.
4 is
looked
pretty
into it.
bad.
4 is just dumpster fire.
Yeah,
Good moments selectively, but overall not a good movie. 5, it was a nice send off, but still, like I go back to like 3 was the perfect send off.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
why
should have left it alone.
should have left it alone.
Yeah.
But 5, like it was just nice to see Harrison Ford do another one. Like in his career, and I know he was really happy to do it. So
Yeah.
that was enough for me. But yeah. So.
All right, we feel good about this.
I feel good, unless you want to hear what my least favorite TV show is. I bet you guys could guess.
Please.
I'm
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
guess it's The Idol.
Yes.
Oh wow, that's all of
You guys
ours,
can
right?
check out us talking
Go
about the
check
first
out-
episode on our channel where we just completely tear it apart. But do you want to talk about how terrible
No,
it
I
is?
don't. I did want to plug our episode. Go listen to us talk about of why it's not worth your time. But our episode is.
You got a lot of good stuff.
There's
in
so
there,
many
I think.
episodes now to plug everyone in.
There is.
That's great.
We love it. So that is our favorite TV shows and movies so far in 2023. We're gonna have another episode coming out soon where we talk about our most anticipated releases for the remainder of the year. But look out really soon where we're gonna have a lot of content for Barbenheimer, aka the releases of Greta Gerwig's Barbie,
Ooh.
as well as Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. Lots to talk about. And again, we'll probably talk about some updates with SAG and what's going on with the strike, as well as the WGA strike.
Yep.
So, keep it on, keep checking our Instagram, check out our videos on YouTube. Make sure you guys share, like, and subscribe, like we said. Just signing off. I am Darian Scalamoni,
I am Liz Seiko.
I'm Zach Miller.
and we will see you guys soon.